The first thing I remember is the smell of burning circuitry, sharp enough to sting my nose even through the cracked visor. The shuttle was groaning like it regretted every decision that had led it to this moment. Much like me, while gravity spun us in a slow, humiliating tumble toward the planet's surface. I tried the emergency thrusters, but they coughed once and died, probably offended I'd even asked. I was seconds away from becoming an expensive crater when the door was torn open from the outside and a silhouette leaned in, framed by white-blue plasma light. She looked human at first glance, but the long ears, sleek, expressive, and twitching with impatience, gave her away. Without a word, she grabbed me by the collar and yanked me out as if I weighed nothing. Freefall greeted me with an offended howl, but before I could become a meteor, she fired a grav hook that halted our descent with a stomach-turning jolt. My life flashed before my eyes, which was unfortunate because it mostly consisted of unpaid bills and terrible dating decisions. When we landed on the frost-coated ground, she finally spoke, tilting her head as if evaluating a mildly disappointing purchase. "You humans," she sighed, her long ears flicking back, "should not be allowed near vehicles. I'll have you know," I said, gasping for breath. "I passed my flight exam with, well, not flying colors, but definitely some colors." She blinked at me, then smirked, a real smirk. "Congratulations. You almost died in a very colorful way." The landscape around us hummed with alien energy. Crystalline vines wound between massive stone arches that defied geometry, suspended as if the planet had decided gravity was optional on weekends. Tiny luminescent creatures drifted through the air, glowing like lazy comets. The ground under my feet vibrated with distant tectonic murmurs, as though the world itself was trying to apologize for the crash. My rescuer tapped a device at her belt, and a small, translucent drone appeared, scanning me with a beam that felt like being judged by a disappointed grandmother. "No serious injuries," she announced. "Just bruised pride." "That's the worst one," I muttered. She offered her hand, surprisingly gentle now. "Come, my shelter isn't far. And before you ask, yes, I saved you for a reason." "Oh, good," I said, stumbling after her. I was afraid it was sheer kindness, and that would have been terrifying. Her long ears twitched in amusement. "Don't worry, my request will be far scarier." Somehow, despite the bruises, the ruined shuttle, and the suspiciously ominous statement, I felt an unexpected warmth in my chest. Maybe it was adrenaline, maybe it was shock, or maybe it was the realization that the alien woman who had just saved my life had a sense of humor, which, frankly, was the most dangerous part of all. Her shelter turned out to be less a structure and more a living sculpture grown from the planet itself. Bioluminescent roots curled up from the ground, weaving into smooth walls that pulsed with faint color. When she brushed her fingertips along them, the entire place brightened, like an affectionate pet reacting to its favorite person. I tried the same, but the wall dimmed immediately, as if unimpressed with my existence. Typical. She led me through a corridor that smelled faintly of citrus and static electricity. "This outpost is off-record," she said. "My people don't know it exists." I nodded, then immediately tripped over a vine that slithered out of the floor like a bored snake. She caught my arm before I kissed the ground. "Humans," she murmured, "so committed to self-destruction." "It's called multitasking," I replied. "We fall while walking and panic about life choices at the same time." Her long ears twitched again. Amusement, I guessed, but she didn't comment. Instead, she guided me into a chamber where alien technology hummed softly. Floating screens shifted shape as if shy about committing to any one form. At the center stood a table holding bowls of something that looked like shimmering mist, swirling as though alive. "That's food?" I asked, skeptical. "It's a nutritional cloud," she said. "Very efficient." I poked it. The cloud poked back. "It's sentient." "It's moody," she corrected. "Not the same." She lifted one bowl and inhaled it, literally inhaled, and I hesitated before trying. The cloud tasted like spicy air with hints of fruit and regret. "Not bad," I admitted. Kind of like eating a thunderstorm. That is the highest compliment you could give it, she said sincerely, and the bowl actually wiggled with pride. When we finished, she finally sat across from me, her expression shifting into something serious. Her long ears angled forward, attentive. I didn't save you only because you were falling out of the sky, she began. I require help, and humans are uniquely suited for this particular task. I'm honored, I said, and terrified, but mostly honored. She ignored my comment. There is an oath ceremony, a binding pact used for political protection. Harmless for you, complicated for me. I need someone outside my species, someone unconnected, to stand in my place. So you saved me, I said, because you needed a volunteer, because I needed someone I could trust not to be controlled by my people, she corrected. You are too chaotic, unpredictable. It makes you useful. I blinked. That is the nicest insult I've ever received. She leaned closer. This favor is simple in words and heavy in consequence. You may refuse. I hesitated. She watched me without pressure, only quiet patience, her ears softly relaxed. And despite the strangeness of everything, the living walls, the moody food, the alien woman who criticized my walking, I felt something steady in her presence. I'll hear you out, I said. But if this involves sacrificing a limb or joining a cult, I reserve the right to panic dramatically. Her smile was small but real. Panic all you like. I only need your promise. And somehow that was the part that scared me most. The trouble began before dawn, when the shelter's walls trembled like a nervous animal. She froze, long ears lifting sharply. They've found me, she whispered. The lights dimmed in agreement. Outside, a low mechanical hum rolled across the terrain, the unmistakable sound of bounty drones sweeping the frozen plains. She grabbed her gear with practiced efficiency while I struggled with my boots, which resisted my feet like they were morally opposed to my survival. Why are they after you? I hissed. Political disagreement, she said. I disagreed. They politicked. That clears things up beautifully, I muttered. We slipped out through a hidden exit grown from the living walls. The air outside crackled with scanning beams. Strange crystalline formations bent the light, mirroring our shapes and scattering our heat signatures, but not enough to keep us hidden for long. She guided us into a canyon where floating mineral clusters drifted lazily, bumping into each other like sleepy balloons. A drone zipped overhead. I flinched. She didn't. With a flick of her wrist, she hacked its sensors using a shimmering pulse from her handheld device. The drone paused midair, confused, then flew off to interrogate a nearby rock formation that looked suspiciously guilty. You're good at this, I whispered. Running from responsibility is a cultural tradition, she replied. We reached the base of a towering arch of violet stone, and she stopped abruptly. The ceremony must happen now, she said. If we wait, they'll take me before the oath is complete. Right here, I asked, in front of the judgmental floating rocks? They don't judge, she said. A rock bumped the back of my head. She sighed. Mostly. She handed me a small prism glowing from within. This binds the pact. You stand for me. You claim you trust me. Her voice softened. And I trust that you do this freely. It was strangely quiet. No jokes came to my mouth. No panic. Only a steady certainty, as if the world held its breath. I lifted the prism. Light spilled between my fingers, warm and strangely comforting. I trust you, I said. Her ears lowered in a gesture I finally understood, relief. The prism dissolved into light, weaving around her like threads of silver. For a moment, she looked almost weightless, anchored only by hope. Then the drones descended. She tossed me behind a crystal boulder. Stay down. But something in me had shifted. Maybe it was nearly dying twice in 1 week. Maybe it was the way she'd looked at me when the oath sealed. I didn't stay down. Instead, I grabbed her device, pointed it at the largest drone, and pressed the largest button, always a terrible idea. A blinding pulse erupted. The drones wobbled midair, spinning like confused metal ducks, then scattered off in random directions. One flew headfirst into a cliff. Another interrogated its own shadow. Miraculously, the sky cleared. She stared at me, stunned. You actually helped. I know, I said. Terrifies me too. With the pact complete and the drones incapacitated, her pursuers could no longer touch her. She was free, truly free. When we made our way back toward the horizon, she walked beside me. Closer than before, ears relaxed, expression softer. You've changed, she said. Character development, I answered. It sneaks up on you. She laughed, light and unguarded. So what will you do now? Not crash any more shuttles, I said. Maybe, probably. She nudged me gently. I could teach you, if you stayed. I glanced at the alien landscape glowing with quiet wonders, then at her. This sharp, sarcastic, long-eared woman who had turned my life into chaos and somehow made it better. Yeah, I said. I think I'll stay. And for the first time since the crash, the future didn't terrify me at all.